All right, so I'm going to introduce our two awesome speakers we have. Normally, I don't like to read y'all, but they're so impressively awesome that there's so much I could memorize. So here is the introduce. So we have, okay, I don't want to, is it Jairo? Is that
Got it.
correct?
You
Did I
got
get
it.
it?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so Jairo Rodriguez. So he is a U.S. Air Force veteran. He's known for his dedication, honesty, and professionalism. So after serving in the United States Air Force, Jairo initially looked into real estate as an investor, but soon realized that becoming a realtor was far more fulfilling. In addition to real estate, Jairo is involved in his community as a local Board of Education trustee, the current commander of American Legion Post 238, and has an awesome passion for volunteering at organizations like Habitat for Humanity, Oasis, Kumak, and just to name a few. With the passion and drive that the military instilled in him, he has dedicated himself to getting involved at all levels within the Realtor organization and serves as the North Central Jersey Association of Realtors, president director at New Jersey Realtors, and on the National Association of Realtors, NAR, Young Professional Advisory Committee at the Region 2 representative. So, welcome, Jairo, and thank you so much for giving us your time today. Next, we have Kate Wright, who we just learned is about to have another baby girl, and you look amazing, by the way. Your skin is glowing. So Kate Wright was licensed in 2010, a lifetime resident of Atlanta, is a third-generation real estate professional. Kate received her BA in psychology from the University of Tennessee in 2010 and received her real estate license shortly after. She gained initial experience in real estate sales and acquisitions by working with a property management company prior to creating Living Wright Realty Group in 2016. Since the start of her real estate career, Kate has been recognized as a leader and a top producer. Her path into leadership evolved through her initial involvement with YPN back in 2012. And then over the years, she served at numerous local committee chair positions and a state committee member. Kate currently serves on the National Association of Realtors, Advisory Board for the YPN, on the National Association of Realtors Conference Committee, and as a director with the Atlanta Realtors Association. So Kate holds the Lifetime GRI designation, the ePro designation, and her Georgia broker's license. She vigilantly keeps her market and technology knowledge current, and she is motivated daily by the gratification of helping buyers and sellers achieve their real estate goals and taking the best care of each client. So Kate is married to Ty. They have two daughters, Sophia and Vivian, with, like I mentioned, another one arriving in spring. Kate enjoys time with family, outdoor pursuits, travel time with friends, delicious food, as well as mentoring teen girls through her favorite local nonprofit organization, Blueprint 58. So welcome to you, Kate, and thank you again for taking your time.
Absolutely. Gosh, that was long. I didn't even realize.
It's okay.
Someone else did that for me.
So I'm going to turn it over to our speakers.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Jairo and I love doing this. That is why we have been so involved with YPN, and that is why we are on board on a national level. And we hope that maybe somewhere along the line, talking to some of you all, it will inspire you all to get involved and take some next steps in leadership as well. So today I know that you guys are getting started with a series on listings, and I think that's so exciting. I love how we're able to jump on Zoom and get stuff done. I know it's not the same as meeting in person. Meeting in person is so much more relational, but we'll do our best to present this information to you accurately. And if you have questions, please feel free to follow up with us afterward. We do have a little PowerPoint presentation. So also if you want a copy of that afterward, I'm happy to share it with you. I did drop my email and my other contact information into the chat, and I see Jairo's is over there as well. So always feel free to reach out to us as a resource. If you guys need help going forward with any events, we're here for that too. And so without any further ado, let's get started. So let me see if I can get my screen share going. That will be our first step. All right, can y'all see my screen? Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. So the series that you guys are doing is a 3-part series. So what we've kind of come up with between our advisory members is that Jairo and I are going to be leading you guys this time. Next time we'll have, I believe it's Krista and I leading the next session, and then Jairo and Krista will lead the 3rd session. So you'll get a chance to get to know 3 of us and hear from the 3 of us. Now, all of us are in different areas, of course, and I'm not too far from y'all. I'm in Atlanta. So I know that every kind of region and area does things a little differently, but when it comes to listings and the general principles of real estate, I think we could all say that we're pretty aligned. So our presentation today is really just kind of going over how to secure listings and how to also run a successful listing presentation. I know when I first started real estate, I had a lot of buyer clients. I mean, I think that's probably pretty standard that the beginning of your career is going to be more buyer focused or buyer heavy than possibly listings. And I remember my broker telling me, I was frustrated. I was like, I want listings. I want listings. And I remember him telling me, give it time, season yourself in the industry and they'll start coming. But in the meantime, here are some things you can do. And so that's what I'm hoping. Many of you are going to be at different phases and different stages in your careers right now. A lot of the people that are involved in YPN, at least for us in Atlanta, are newer into the industry. And so something like this could be a really helpful tool to help them kind of stay on track and determine where they want to be going with starting to acquire and work on getting their listings. So kind of a starting point would be, some of you might already have all this down and you're going to listen to me today and say, yeah, Kate, we knew all that. But other of you might say, okay, maybe this is something that can spark some new ideas for you. When I sit down with newer agents, I say, where are we going to start with the listing side of things? Well, the first thing that I would suggest that anyone does is sit down and consider their strong suits and their passion points before they tackle anything else. Okay. So I tell people, what do you enjoy? What do you not enjoy? I know when we come into the industry, we get inundated with ideas of cold calling, for sale by owner, mailers. You got to do email campaigns. You got to do word of mouth. You've got to get involved in the community. You got to do X, Y, Z every day. You need a time block and you need to wake up at 6 and you need to do all this. And it can be really overwhelming. And so I realized pretty quickly that there are some things I do not like to do. I don't care about them and I won't have passion or joy exuding from me when I do them. So for example, I am not going to be a person who's going to door knock. I won't do it. Not because I couldn't, because I don't want to. So what I sit down with people in the beginning to do to determine where we're going to go with listings is kind of sit down and say, what are the things that you enjoy? Where do you already spend your time? What are your strong suits? And what is something that you think you could build on and be consistent with? So I know for me, word of mouth and referrals is a really big one. You probably can tell it's not hard for me to talk. And so pretty much anywhere that I go, I'm talking to people. Community involvement was another one that was really easy for me. I've consistently gone to the same church for a long time. I had gone to the same gym for a long time. There were a lot of things that I did in my community, volunteering with that Blueprint 58 group. There were a lot of things that I had been doing in my community consistently that were opportunities for me to expand or grow my business. And I wasn't really capitalizing on them. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slides. The other thing that I knew that I had a strong basis in was my sphere of influence. Not everybody has this because some people will relocate, maybe Birmingham is not your town you're from, or you've only been here for a year, or you just started doing real estate and you don't have a huge sphere of influence. So that's why sitting down at the beginning of business planning and thinking about listings is so important, because you can say, what are the things that I do have working for me? What are the things that I enjoy? And what direction do I want to see myself going in? I know not everybody's the same, but I know for me, if you ask me to do something I'm not passionate about, or something I don't like, or something just kind of makes me feel a little cringe-worthy, I'm not going to be very good at it. So I think for real estate, most people will kind of get into like a niche or get into a flow, and they'll realize like the things that I'm good at is where I can capitalize and make the most of myself. Jairo, did you have anything that you wanted to add on this slide?
Yeah, so you mentioned the door knocking, where I, on the other hand, love door knocking. So if you have any questions on that, we can go into that later. But I wrote down here, in addition to all this, like, just to be successful on any of this stuff, it's really about just practicing, getting used to, in essence, rejection, because sometimes rejection will kind of stop us from continuing, right? And we just get discouraged and stop that. Aside from what you have here, that's a great starting point.
All right. So once you've had a chance to sit down and kind of go through some of these things, determine like, what is it that I'm good at it? What is it that I'm passionate about? Or what is it that I can commit to? Then we'll head on to the next slide. All right. So on this one, we're going to be talking about where you're investing your time and your money. Okay. So again, we know that not everybody is like far into their career. And I know for myself personally, when I started, there was no marketing budget. There was no really any budget outside of getting my commission and making sure my bills were paid. And so I know that sometimes you have to sit down with your strong suits and your passion points and focus in on those areas and then determine where you're going to execute. Some of the examples for this could be preparing ahead of time, say 6 to 12 month marketing campaign via email, sending out in the mail for the post, for actual post office mail, which some people think is old school, but I'm telling you, it still is a thing and it's relevant. And what you want to do is you're going to want to set yourself up for success here by planning ahead of time. I know it's easy for all of us to have all these ideas. It's easy for us to have great big plans and not execute. So I know, life happens, kids, work, a listing or a, client comes up that needs you right away. The best thing that you could do for yourself would be to sit down ahead of time, prepare out your plan for the next 6 to 12 months and have it ready to go kind of on autopilot. So if that means mailers, go ahead and pre-prepare them. If it means email marketing campaign, write all, say you're going to do it quarterly, write your marketing campaign ahead of time where all you're going to need to do is maybe fill in the blanks or add the relevant market data right before you press send. Other things you could do if you're not in a position where you have like your marketing budget set up yet is there's free ways to market yourself. So you could prepare social media campaigns ahead of time. You can work them into your schedule so that you're not falling off the wagon, because the last thing you want to do is start something and then not be consistent with it. And then you essentially wasted your time and people kind of forget what you were working on doing. If you're like Jairo and you like to door knock, do so safely. Or if you want to cold call, then find a consistent time every single week, block that time off, put it on your schedule, put it in your phone, give yourself a reminder, and have a plan for doing that as well. So there are things that you can do that aren't going to cost you money. They're going to start to produce leads that will be leads that you can follow up on. Now, we know every lead is not going to turn into a listing, but for every lead you have, it is opportunity to potentially get a listing. And so these are the things that you want to be doing to not only get your name out, not only get your reputation spread around, but to also start leads. And then the last thing I have on here is you can get involved in your community and plan consistent face-to-face, be a consistent face to develop relationships in that arena. This could be, for example, like I mentioned, a small gym, a church, volunteer opportunities, hobby groups. If you have children, maybe their sports teams, the moms on those sport teams, any clubs they participate in, etc. I know for me personally, this has been one of my biggest listing sources. I know I mentioned earlier, I'd been going to the same gym for a long time, same church for a long time. And without even meaning to, my intention was never, I'm going to start going to church so that I can get listings. But if you go to have community involvement and you stay consistent with it without even really meaning to, people are going to understand who you are. And that relational connection is going to start to grow. And once they know that they can trust you as a friend and you have that relationship and that consistency, then they also are going to open the door for more opportunities in terms of listings and referrals and things like that. So ahead of time, you can sit down and determine where you want to go to invest either your time or your money. And if you don't have the money to invest in anything right now, that is okay, because your time and your personality and who you are is equally as important. Jairo, did you want to add anything on this slide?
Yeah, so with that last piece about the community involvement, I mean, we all do something, and we have a sphere that we can contact and be in touch with and potentially get, business from, and we oftentimes don't. So my, I guess, piece of advice, and this was given to me by a mentor, they used to call me like a ninja agent, right? I have so many people that I knew, I was involved in so many things, but many people didn't know that I was a real estate agent. So don't be afraid to just tell people, hey, by the way, this is what I do, and put yourself out there.
Right, absolutely. I think, again, everyone is different. Everyone has different goals, but to me, so much of residential real estate is relational. And the more you can connect with people and build genuine relationship bonds, the more they trust you and the more that you're going to earn their business. And like Jairo said, make sure that they know you do this. It's okay to say like, hey, I love, I love being here on Sundays, but I've got to run because on Sunday afternoon, I can't stay or I can't run out to lunch because on Sunday afternoons I hold open houses. Or I love watching the girls do ballet on Thursdays, but unfortunately we should plan a time to meet at a playground another day when I don't have listing appointments or buyer's appointments immediately after. So there are ways to interject or intercept like a communication with someone where you can mention in passing that you're a realtor, but you're not necessarily being aggressive. And I know I have found that that's the easiest way for me to build that bridge, like Jairo was saying, to make sure that they know that I do real estate. This is my job. I care about it and I'm really sharp and I know what I'm doing, but I'm also not trying to force it down their throats. I like the ninja realtor. Let's see. So this kind of goes hand in hand with becoming the trusted expert to people, right? So be it your neighbors, be it your husband's coworkers, your wife's coworkers, be it your friends from college, be it your mom group, be it your alumni group, whatever it is. Focus on building the relationships through actual trust and then start to deliver the knowledge. So people want to know. I know everyone who ever talks about real estate with me, they want to know. They want to know what's going on in the market. What do the comps look like? If they were looking at a specific area, what's happening in that area? Do you know what happened to this house on the street from us? And you want to be the source of knowledge for them, because that is exactly how you are going to grow that relationship that is going to earn their business, which will become the listing. So you want to show people that you're genuine and you're not just looking for that business, kind of like we discussed, but then you also want to study your market, know the stats, be willing to your inventory, and invest into your industry network so that you're prepared. All of those things are so important. I cannot tell you how many times just from watching market stats in the areas that I know I work in and spend my time in has been beneficial to me in conversation, just even passive conversation in a Trader Joe's line. Knowing the statistics in terms of average days on market for a zip code, knowing the statistics in terms of average price point for a popular neighborhood. All of this stuff is going to come out of you once you study it and know it in conversation, and you're going to look like the expert. And once people feel confident that you know what you're talking about and that you are immersed into the industry, that's when they start to say, that's the person I think I would want to sell my house, because she's not just like, oh, well, let me go look and I'll get back to you, which is okay to do. It is okay to do that. If you do not know something, tell someone that. I'm not fully aware. I will love to get you an answer to this, but I want to make sure it's accurate. So could you give me a couple hours and I can get back to you? And that's a good way to collect their information if you don't already have it. And also to show them that you're going to follow through. You can your processes so that you can quickly provide that information to the interested parties. I know for me, one of my big things that I enjoy talking about and I have really kind of prided my business on is efficiency. My long bio, we talked about that I have 2 toddlers already and another baby on the way. Well, even if you don't have that, it doesn't hurt you to have an efficient system in place. And so I learned pretty quickly in my career that having templates, like email templates ready to go, having resources like PDF resources that I've created ready to fire off, all those things help streamline my business and my efficiency. And it sounds crazy. Actually, it really doesn't, but it impresses people. So when you have a resource available to, and you say, hey, let me get your email and I'll send you this PDF about the costs associated with listing your home. Now I'm saving myself time, energy, etc. But I'm also showing them that this isn't my first rodeo. And this is something that I have prepared that I can enable all of my clients to have the resources too. So find ways that you can streamline your process and quickly provide information to people to follow up. So again, that could be something like you could create like a generalized template, like, oh, it could say, dear Susie, I'm so grateful that I met you in the line at Trader Joe's today. I love that you asked me about selling your home. Here's some information on what it would look like to sell your home. And then here's your template, right? So then you have this template that just is already pre-typed, pre-written. And all you have to do is, if you have Gmail, you can just press the template, but otherwise you could just copy and paste it in, personalize anything you needed to personalize in it, and then send it off. So that maybe takes you, 2 minutes? And now you've followed through on a lead. You can mark it in your calendar to follow up with her in a few days. And maybe you have a follow-up email that goes out as well. So finding ways to streamline your processes is a huge, huge, huge part of being efficient and presenting yourself well to people so that you can secure basically their trust again as being the expert and securing ultimately the listings. You can create those helpful materials to be prepared to distribute. Call me crazy, but I even keep some of them in my car. I have some PDFs. I know someone earlier on here was in conversation saying they were too type A for something. Hi, type A. I literally have like laminated some of these things and I keep them in my car or like in my purse, and I'll be like, here, have this. And it's like I have an immediate response to somebody and they realize having those resources ready to distribute. A, I definitely do real estate, but B, I'm prepared. And three, C, I know what I'm doing. And then just never leave somebody hanging. So that does go unanswered or a task that's undone, that's going to be a poor reflection on you. And ultimately I mean, there are occasions where you could still win the listing, but ultimately it's not going to be a professional representation of what you're capable of doing and how you're going to handle the listing. So if someone ever reaches out to you, make sure you don't leave them hanging. Make sure you don't leave questions unanswered or tasks undone. Jairo, what you got on this one?
Yeah, so when you initially mentioned getting to know your neighbors, I'll just give you a case study, I guess. So it doesn't necessarily mean the neighborhood that you live in, right? You might target or focus in an area that's not necessarily where you live. For example, I decided early on in my career that I didn't want to um, target or farm the area that I live simply because there's not enough turnaround, right? I want to go to an area where there's a lot of turnaround. Maybe the price point is a little bit higher or something along those lines, where I know that I can grow and scale my business year after year. So yeah, just become the expert in that area. And the key word that I call, or the phrase that I like to call myself when I door knock, I tell everybody, hey, I'm your neighborhood ambassador. At this case, at this time, a lot of them already know me, but when I first started door knocking, that's what I did. But yeah, good stuff.
I love that. And so any way that you're going to incorporate from our starting point, like whatever it was for sale by owners, door knocking, whatever it is, all these principles can apply. And there's going to be rejection. Like Jairo said, there will be times where you might get rejected, but be consistent, be relatable, be the source of knowledge and gain that trust. Because ultimately, I don't know about you guys, but I would much rather work with someone who trusts me and I trust them than to work with a stranger that we don't have that bond. It's very difficult to facilitate transactions with people that don't have trust between them. All right, so I think this was the final slide before we get into the listing presentation, but this one's kind of a gimme. I'm sure you all know it. Take good care of people. Goes without saying, and it's a huge deal. I know for myself, there have been instances where I've hired somebody to do something for me that I didn't even know if they were going to be the best at the job, but I knew that they would take care of me. I knew that they would be consistent. I knew that they'd answer the phone. I knew that they'd care. I knew that they'd be, oh goodness. Sorry, my phone is ringing. I knew that they would be passionate about what they do. And that was the reason why I was willing to hire them. I don't know where it went.
While you're bringing that up, I can kind of share a
Yeah,
quick story. So this last November, and I realized when you mentioned the word rejection, it kind of, the light bulb came up again. This last November, I got to speak at the NAR's conference in regards to, how to be successful and succeed in your first 5 years in real estate. And one of the things that I shared that got really good feedback was I back to rejection again. When I started out, whether it was door knocking, going on appointments, whatever I was doing, FISBOs, expired calls, I had to go through 47 no's before I finally got my first listing. So don't just keep at it, Nike it, just do it.
Well, that just goes hand in hand with the whole consistency thing, like, being consistent in your community, being consistent on your for sale by, or on your cold calling, being for sale on your door, or consistent on your door knocking, being consistent with your marketing efforts. Nothing that I know, like I hate when people use this example and I'm about to do it. You don't eat one salad and lose 10 pounds. You have to start your whole entire regimen and be consistent in your journey to be able to get to that weight loss goal. It's similar to real estate. You have to be consistent. You have to do the work and you have to show up every time to be able to get to the goal that you're trying to accomplish, be it listings, buyers, whatever it is. And so if you guys come up with your plans and you start to implement them and you're consistent with them, it is going to pay off. Coming back to the care of people, I know residential real estate is an emotional thing. It doesn't matter who it is, guys, girls, whatever. We're all human beings, and selling houses is very personal and very emotional transaction. Sometimes it can be hard. If any of you have had even just one transaction on here, then you know that there's going to be some moment in that transaction that you're going to be going like this. It is our job to be good to the people in those moments and to make sure that we're there to balance that for them, help them balance that. So it's okay to acknowledge that we're all human and that we have those emotions, but it's also our job to coach them and encourage them along. Use your calendar as a tool and be sure to remember things like birthdays, anniversaries, or other important dates. Again, when you show somebody that you care about them outside of just real estate, like the last thing we want to do is show up to our community involvement and say, hey, everyone, I'm a realtor. I just want to make sure you guys know because I want your, okay, I'm leaving, bye. That's just not going to work. And so finding ways to connect with them beyond that initial connection and finding ways to show them that you're thinking of them when they're not even thinking of you. So birthday, anniversary, maybe they're about to have a baby. So you ask them, could I have some food after you have the baby or whatever it is. Finding ways to acknowledge important things for them is going to make a big difference. And you can use your calendar as a tool. My clients always say, how did you remember this? Every year I do a 1-year anniversary gift for them on their first home anniversary. I send like tips, treats, cookies, or something, just depending on who it is and where they are. And they always say, how did you remember that? I didn't even remember it was my 1-year anniversary. And I'm like, oh, just know. No, I don't just know. It's all on my calendar. So I give myself a ton of calendar reminders, and my calendar is like literally like one of my assistants to make me look good. Birthdays, anniversaries, home anniversaries, anything that I know, their kids graduating from college, all these things, as soon as they mention it, or as soon as you see it on Facebook, or as soon as you hear it in passing in conversation, the second you leave, put it into your calendar and give yourself a reminder 2 days before. And then you be the person at 9 a.m. on that day to say, hey, I was just thinking of you. I know it's your son's graduation today, and I know that's a big day. Like, what? How does she remember that? So client care is really one of the best and biggest ways to retain your referral basis and to gain repeat business. So don't forget about the clients after they close, and consider, this could be a whole nother conversation, a whole nother wake up with YPN, but consider client events and outreach opportunities you can. And again, these do not have to be high-end, expensive, showy things. I know one of the years that I didn't have a ton of resources available to me, I did a spring cleaning event for my clients. I went out of my way to make them feel important. I don't know if people like this or not, depends on your clients. My clients were good with it. I baked cookies, I had lemonade, and I literally rented a dumpster for $350 and had everybody bring their spring cleaning stuff to trash. And it was a huge hit. And so I had a really great touch for all my clients that was something unique, and did it on a budget. So there are ways you can do things for to show them that you're thinking of them, you care about them, and you care about your business, but you're not, breaking the bank to do them as well. So again, just finally paying attention to people and going the extra mile. I know for me, it's gone a long way in my career. I have multiple people who've said, I refer people to you. Now that I've worked with you, I know you do a great job, but I would have referred people to you before I even had worked with you because of how you treat people. So I know that that's something that for me in my career has been a big deal. And Jairo, did you have anything else you wanted to add to this slide? Okay. All right.
Nope, good to go. Oh, I froze.
Oh. So I know the other part of this is the list is now that we've gotten that lead, we were invited into the door, it's time to show up and show out with our listing presentation. Now, this was really daunting to me in the beginning. I know I wanted listings so bad, but then the first time I had a listing appointment, I was practically hyperventilating in my car before I went in because I didn't know exactly what I was going to do and how I was going to present it and how I would feel like confident about it. So I quickly realized that it helped to have a listing presentation. And I do this with my buyer consultations as well. And like some of my people, they like know me well enough that they like laugh when I get my computer out because I'm like, okay, we're going to have a little PowerPoint now. Teacher Kate is coming out, and some of them will laugh, but really it's so helpful because it makes us look prepared. And it also helps guide us through our appointment without having to feel like you're just winging it and we just don't know what we're about to say. And we might say the same thing 6 times and we might miss some of our content. So what I quickly realized was developing a listing presentation, and I think Jairo uses a listing presentation as well. Developing a listing presentation unique to you is a huge tool, and it's going to save you a lot of time and energy as well, because every time you get a listing presentation, here we go, streamlining things again. Every time you get listing presentation, you're pretty much prepared. You just have to kind of fill in the blanks. So, you have this outline, this template. All you're going to really do is come with the additional information that's unique to that person's property. Okay. So what we wanted to do today was kind of run you through our, one of our listing presentations, and this one's mine. I'm sure Jairo would be willing to share some information about his, and he and I kind of collaborated on this. So it's got a little bit of both of our stuff in it. But this is the listing presentation, and we're not going to go through every single line. Y'all will fall asleep on us. But this is a generalized listing presentation that we would present to our clients when we had a listing appointment. So typically what I like to do when I have a listing appointment, I introduce myself. And y'all, when I tell you I have like systems and structures, some of you would laugh if you saw my like business manual, because like when I hire a teammate, I basically hand them the business manual. And I even have an agenda for the listing, for a listing appointment. So my agenda for the listing appointment is to arrive, introduce yourself, you know, get comfortable, be invited inside, and then I ask the seller to give me a tour of the house before we sit down and talk. And I usually tell them ahead of time, because that's what's in one of my email templates, is when I come for the listing appointment, do be prepared that I would love to see the home, because it's going to be important for all of us to get a tour of the house so that we know, A, what are we going to need to focus on to prepare the home, but B, also to help us in pricing the home, because it's, you know, you can look at a house on MLS or on the tax record and get some of the facts, but you don't, oh my goodness, sorry y'all, but you don't know what the, there we go. You don't know what the condition of the home or the upgrades or things like that might be without touring it. So typically I come in, introduce myself, take a tour of the house, and then we sit down and talk. And when we sit down to talk, I open my computer and I present through a listing presentation. First thing I do is introduce myself and my group. I have a team, so I like to make sure everybody knows who those people are in case they have to, you know, have any dealings with them. Typically it's me who they're going to be dealing with, but I know like getting ready to have a baby and life, there's a good chance that they're going to be seeing other people on my team. So I start by with an introduction. And then this is my team. That's me, my mom, and my teammate, Ashley. Talking about the house. So I asked them, even though we've already toured it and they might have already given me some of this information, we kind of go over any special features, upgrades, systems they have in the home. At that next point, we talk about the comparable properties. So this is where you would have done your research. And for me, I like to leave something with them. So I do have a little folder I bring. And in that folder, I've already printed out the comps for their property. So I already have some unique information to their home. I get those out of the folder. We go over the comps. We talk about the schools in their area. We talk about tax record and other things that we might need to discuss. And then we talk about market trends. So again, it's not an overwhelming presentation. Like I'm not going to sit here and read off of it, but it helps guide me through our meeting so that I don't look like I'm lost or I'm not missing something that I need to go over with them. And there might be a time in this presentation where you want to take some notes. So that's also a good idea to be able to do. The next thing that we do is we talk about my marketing plan for them. So I discuss if they're going to need staging or not in their home. Sometimes I will stage a home completely, and other times I will have my stager come in and just kind of rearrange some of the furniture, or possibly make a suggestion on maybe like I've had a stager make a suggestion on changing a few paint colors. It could be small things. We can move some art around, whatever it is. So we'll talk about that. We will discuss the professional photos being taken. I tell all my clients that every listing I have gets professional photos. It could be a lot, and I'm still going to have a professional photographer come take photos at my expense. So I explain that to them and how we'll prepare for that. We talk about the online presence. So you're going to give them that confidence in you that you're going to be marketing their property well. So for us in Atlanta, we have First Multiple Listing Service and Georgia MLS. So I tell them about that, how it will work, how it will show to other realtors, how it will come through on people's searches. We talk about how that is pushed out to third-party websites like realtor.com. Then we talk about, for me, and everyone's business is unique. So you might have some type of unique business. Your broker might offer some type of unique website or search engine or promotional item that could go in here. And then I talk about promoting their home on my social media. And these are places where you could talk about how these things have worked for you in the past. I know I have had transactions that have literally found the buyer or the seller or whatever. I have found the transaction has evolved from one of these platforms like social media. So somebody might have seen me posted on social media, they messaged me and they wanted to see it. And then it basically evolved into being the person who purchased the home. So you can give them examples of things like that and why it's important that you do these things for them and why your professionalism and your presence on these websites is going to make the difference. The last thing that I do is talk about the printed listing material that I'll be placing in their home. So I tell them about the home information binder that I put together, which everyone can do this uniquely. But I like to have them list out their utilities, the average cost of the utilities, any upgrades they've made, and then why they love living there. And I assemble it with all the disclosures into a nice binder that looks really uniform and has my team logo and my brokerage information on it. And I leave that in the home. So I don't know about you guys, but there's a lot of times where I'm showing 20 houses in a day, and I didn't have a chance to get every single disclosure printed off or every single note I needed on the house. And when I walk into a house or a listing that has this information ready for me as the buyer's agent, it helps me sell the house. And so I explain that to them, and I tell them that we're going to have that out because we don't want to give anybody the opportunity to miss this information. We do listing flyers, and then we also do just listed and just sold pinpoint marketing, which is basically mailing. And I explain what that is to them as well. And then in this market, I don't know about y'all, I'm sure you're the same as we are, but there's really usually not a need for open house right now. But in the instance that there was, we would discuss how that works. Everyone is different. I know my team, we do one open house the Sunday after we list. And then from there, if we, not in this market recently, but from there, if we needed to make a price adjustment, or if we had some kind of hurdle or something, we would consider a second one. But that way I have a standard that I have set that I can share with the seller at that time. And the other thing is it helps, it's gonna sound crazy again, but it helps you control the situation in the listing where a seller's not totally taking advantage of you either. Because if a seller has an expectation that you're gonna be there having an open house every single Sunday, it's likely not the case. And if they tell you that after the fact, then you're gonna say, gosh, I should have told them up front, I don't do that. Or now I have to do it because I didn't explain to them that I wasn't going to. So we go over all those things there. Jairo, anything you wanna interject?
No, somebody had a question in the chat about staging.
Oh, let's see, what does it say? I can't.
So it was from Wendy. Who pays for staging usually if it is fully staged?
Okay, that's a great question. So if you have a vacant home and you're needing full staging, it depends. I have a lot of clients that are willing to pay for it. But if they're not willing to pay for it and I know it needs it and that's what's going to make the sale, I'll pay for it. But I will put something into our listing agreement that if for some reason we don't sell or it doesn't close or they terminate the agreement, which has not happened to me yet, that I would be reimbursed for the staging. Because I don't know how the pricing is for you all, but like to stage a decently sized home here is like $3,500 to $4,000. So it's a big investment from us. I'm willing to do it if that's what's going to get the house sold and I know it will sell. But if you're going to pull the listing on me, which again, hasn't happened, knock on wood, but if you were going to pull the listing from me, I need to have something in there to basically protect my investment into the sale. And everyone does that differently. So you might want to talk to your broker about how they would suggest handling that.
Oh, could I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
Are you going to share this PowerPoint with us?
I'm happy to. If you'll just email
Okay.
me, I'll give you a copy. Yep.
Yeah. Then I'm writing, but I don't know if I'm going to get it all.
I'm happy to. And then you can just kind of personalize it and make it your own. So
okay, great.
Helpful.
Thank you so much.
I don't, again, this is broker, some of the stuff is broker specific. So you'll know your processes and how you do things. But here in Atlanta, that we have Georgia Association of Realtor forms, which we use. And so what I like to do at this point is kind of go over the forms that I'm going to need from them, explain them ahead of time so that when I send them, they're not like, wait, what is this? So we kind of go over the listing agreement, what that's going to look like, what do the terms in there mean? That way, another thing that I'm trying to do is eliminate questions, right? Like as much as we love to answer questions, we really don't. So if we can eliminate, 50 questions after we leave by setting the expectation earlier and explaining things up front, it helps us in the long run. So that's why I like to go over the forms that they're going to be seeing, explain what they are, and then I remind them that I'll be sending them these forms through Dotloop. Now everyone's different. You might have DocuSign, Remind. There are lots of different platforms that they might be coming through. I explain to them I'm going to send them through for me Dotloop, and in each one I will give the instructions again, but that way they're familiar with them ahead of time. I used to bring a notebook that had all these in them, and then I got tired of reprinting them every year. So I don't bring them anymore. But if you feel that would help you to have that form with you to show them like in person, the form, because sometimes people need that, then you could have like a little template notebook that you take to listing appointments to show them these forms, like a blank one. So we go over all of that, and then I give them a homework list. And again, this is something that I have in their folder. So I tell them, you don't need to take notes. This is something in your folder. It's your needs from seller sheet, and that's your homework. So these are the things that I specifically ask them for in their house. If they do not have them, that's okay. But these are the things that I like to have them prepare for me for the next time that I come, either to do photos or with the stager or before we list. So again, I'm happy to share this with anyone, but I don't think you guys want me to go over my whole list. The other thing that I like to collect from them, which also helps me when I'm discussing the listing with other agents or marketing it, is just some house notes from them. And this is also on my needs from seller sheet. So again, you're going to try to streamline everything and create this efficiency process so that when you show up to the listing, you've got your presentation, you've got your homework sheet, and you know what you're going to need to be collecting. And you're going to look like, you know, you're going to be able to get in and out of this listing appointment in 30 minutes to an hour. I'm a talker, so an hour for me. You're going to be able to get in and out of this listing appointment in about an hour, and you've pretty much checked everything off that you needed to. So you're not going to be like, oh crap, I forgot to tell them about this, and then I got to follow up with another email. So go ahead and work on creating those systems early, creating that listing presentation early where it's all fluid and you're able to kind of present the whole package at once. So ask them questions like, do they know who designed or built the house? Have they done any renovations? I also like to get a ballpark estimate of that, because this is that's information, and I tell them this is information that can help me when I relay this to the appraiser, and it's going to help us with the valuation of your home as well. If they have any interesting stories about the house or things that they've done, things they love about living there, any regular contractors, any security systems, things that we would need to know if we were going to be showing the home. All those things are going to be very important, not only for you to know, but to relay to other people. And then we go over, because this is everyone's question. Every single seller wants to know this. How can I maximize the use of my floor plan, or how can I make prepare my house the best? So the simplest version of doing this is to give them this quick list, and you can put this on your homework sheet or in your homework packet. You can boost lighting by making sure that all your light bulbs are working. Declutter the house, clean the house, remove any extra clothes, shoes, collectibles, pack them away. Stage with a display only set of towels and table settings. Now, some people, they don't have kids and they keep a really neat house, so they don't need to do this. But I know in my house, if I was selling it, I would absolutely have to be pulling down all the like towels in the bathrooms that the kids have wiped their, art hands on, and move away their Minnie Mouse placemats and things like that for the showings. Spruce up the home's curb appeal, and then keep your garbage cans as empty and smell free as possible. And this is, again, where you demonstrate yourself as the market expert. These are things that they might not have thought about, and you can explain to them, look, I know it sounds crazy to talk about a garbage can, but how your house smells makes a big difference when somebody walks in the door. And so giving them this information and telling them these things is yet again going to demonstrate that you are the market expert. You might not have ever had a listing in your life, but if you start going over this, they're going to think you have. Another thing we discuss is how we're going to show the home. You guys likely have super lock boxes as well, so I explained to them how that will work. I let them know that I'll have a yard sign out in the yard, and then I ask them their preferred methods of contact, and then did they have any special showing instructions? So say, for instance, they have a cat. Okay, we probably need to put into the showing instructions, be sure not to let the cat out. Or if they do want to leave their security system on, then we need to know exactly how that's going to work, and we need to get the code so that we can relay it to other realtors. If they have a dog that will be in a crate in a certain room, we might want to let people know that. So if they have any special showing instructions, especially now with people working at home during COVID, I know a lot of my clients need a bigger heads up because they're all at home and they're taking conference calls throughout the day. So instead of a 30-minute window ahead of time for a showing, maybe now we need 2 hours. This is the time where you can discuss those things with them as well. And then this is another sheet that I have in their folder that I leave with them, but I basically do a frequently asked questions. And again, this is a time where you're going to basically be one step ahead of them to avoid all these questions coming back to you, because efficiency and structure is going to be your savior. So I just kind of leave this with them, and I tell them you can go over this when I leave, and if you have any additional questions, let me know. But these are questions that almost all my clients ask, and you'll want to make this unique to you. So again, I'm happy to share this presentation, and you might read mine and say, yeah, those are good questions. I'll start with, I don't have any of my own. But then maybe after you have 3 or 4 listings and you know what those people had been asking you during the listing period, then you might be saying, okay, well, now I know what my frequently asked questions need to be, because I got those same 3 questions from all 3 clients. So you can assemble all this information to be unique to you and your market. Jairo, I'm going really fast. Is there anything you wanted to say?
Nope, all good. I'll have some tips or takeaways at the end.
Perfect. These are things that could happen. So again, you're setting that expectation, you're answering questions ahead of time. I have found took me a couple years to figure this out, that if I tell people things that could happen in a transaction that I'm not going to say they're going to go wrong, but they could be hurt. If I tell them ahead of time and that hurdle does come up, everybody's not shocked and completely flustered. Instead, I say, remember we talked about this? It's okay. We're going to get through it. We have a no freak out policy. And these are things that are not abnormal. So I kind of go over some of the things that could happen. A back out. Inspections might shock you. The buyer might ask for things that you think are reasonable. We'll deal with it. It's okay. Don't panic if it happens. You might feel nervous or upset during the process. That's normal. It's an emotional thing. If an agent calls and wants to show it now, I will let you know because it's my job to let you know, but you do have the right to say, no, I can't show the house at this moment. In that instance, let me communicate with the agent. Let me be the professional for you and make sure that they understand that we're not telling them, no, you can't see the house, but that the last minute notice just doesn't serve us at this moment. Some agents might take forever. I've had showings that have lasted over an hour. My clients have been waiting in the car in the cul-de-sac. Some might drive up and never even go inside the house. I have had a client call me and say, I saw on my Ring camera, they walked up to the door and they talked junk and then they left. And I was like, wasn't the house for them. So let them know up front that these things could happen. And unfortunately, some agents will make appointments that they won't keep. So we let them know that some people are a little unprofessional and they might make an appointment, never show up and never let us know. Another part of doing this is letting your clients know that it's not a bad reflection on you when these things happen. So if somebody made an appointment, they didn't keep it and you'd already told them this could happen, it doesn't look like you're the one that, which hopefully no one's pointing a finger at you anyway, but it doesn't look like you're the one that was irresponsible. Instead, you say, remember, we kind of talked about this. And unfortunately, there are some agents that aren't professional enough or they're so busy that they just don't feel like they need to call and let us know. But hopefully that won't happen again. And then we kind of go over the process of what would happen once they sign their contract and they're binding, because this is another thing that all sellers really want to know, but they don't know if they're if it's okay to ask it, or B, to ask it. So I go over the process. I won't do this with y'all here because you'll again go to sleep, but I just kind of go through the process of what is it going to look like once we get an offer, and then how are we going to get to the closing table. And again, this might be something that you want to put into their folder, like a little flow chart. I created like a little flow chart for them so that when it does happen, when we do get the offer, I can reference the flow chart that I left in their folder at our listing appointment. And they all say, oh, thank you. Okay, that's helpful. And also I have email templates to go with each phase of the flow chart. So as we go through the transaction, I let them know ahead of time, you're going to be getting an email from me at each phase of the transaction, letting you know what's going on, what's important at this stage, and what to expect next. And then at the end of my presentation, I tell them the things that were for them. So again, we're just reiterating that trust. So we're telling them that their best interest is our best interest, that we're doing everything in our power to make them successful and advocate for them, and that we're a resource to them. We have vendors. The reason why they want to hire us is because we're not just going to sell their house, but we have other resources for them as well. And we are here to answer questions and provide a smooth transaction. And I know I just mentioned to you guys that I have a step-by-step guide through the process. So essentially, like at each phase, that's where I'm coming in and telling them that I have an email for you. I know some of my people will sit down for our listing presentation with their notebook to take notes. And I'm like, you can do that if you want, but you don't need to, because I promise I'm going to take care of you. And at each phase of this transaction, you're going to know exactly what's going on. And a lot of them are like, oh, okay. So make yourself the professional by doing all these things. Have yourself a prepared plan ahead of time so that when you walk in the door, you're going to present yourself well, and you're going to save yourself a lot of time, energy, and even effort by preparing this ahead of time. What you got?
Okay, is it okay if I mention the few things?
Yes.
Awesome. So, and I apologize in advance because I do have to go as soon as I finish this. But one of the biggest lessons learned that I've, and those 47 no's that I, obviously took from each appointment, something, and I carried it over. One of the biggest lessons behind that for me was learn to listen to the seller. The seller oftentimes has the information that you need and they're willing to share it, but sometimes we just don't listen to them. Right? Get to dig deep to what their motivation really is, why they really want to sell that property. What is it that's, making them want to sell at this point? I mentioned the farming, I mentioned door knocking, and having something formal like this, a presentation that you're actually going over with the seller will put you ahead of, I want to say 70 or 80% of the agents that are out there. I'm not sure how the market is there, but out here, when I show up to a presentation and I open up my folder and go through everything, they're like, wow, I met 7 other agents and not one of them had something like this. So be that agent that goes above and beyond for your clients. And I'm sure many of you would.
And just a second, come behind that, it's like just that I'm prepared factor, and I'm not just coming in here to like, I'm meeting with you and here's some paperwork.
Yeah.
But just, you can practice this at home. I know I would practice this by myself. When I was early in my career, I would sit down and say, okay, I'm going to give a presentation to the wall.
Yeah.
Or my brother or somebody, or maybe I had a friend who didn't even own a house yet. And I'd say, hey, humor me here, but let me give you a listing presentation and tell me what you think. So there are ways that you can prepare, like Jairo said, to go in and be the person that stands out because you have it all together and you might not have ever had a listing before. And we're here to help you. We can be resources, and any questions you all have, we're happy to answer them for you as well. And then the last thing is explain to them kindly, gently, that referrals are huge and that I'm going to deliver because I want their referrals. So if they hire me to sell their house, I'm going to make sure that I cross every T, dot every I, and I show up and I follow through and I take excellent care of them because I want to earn their business in the future. And I also want to earn their referral business. So yet again, that's another time where you can tell them, I do real estate and I make money off referrals. I mean, this is what I do and I'm going to deliver for you. And that's why I want to earn this back from you. And that's how you'll start to see your business grow as well. And I think that's all I have for my presentation. Does anyone have any questions that I might have missed? Let me get out of the screen share. Chat. Okay, someone asked, how do you suggest those of us who have not had a listing presentation create a template for a listing presentation? I'm happy to email you mine and you can, copy and paste of it what you want and personalize it to make it your own. And like I had said, is once you've done it a couple times, you're going to realize you have to go, Jairo. Jairo has to go. Thank you, Jairo. Once you've done it a few times, you'll start to know what you want to put into your listing presentation. So like, the very first listing presentation I did was not in generalized. And then I started to realize what I would talk, like Jairo said, what people wanted to hear or what we would end up talking about the most. And then I would kind of reorganize that information and insert it into my listing presentation to make sure I hit on it. So I'm happy to share it. I dropped my email at the beginning of the chat. So if anyone wants a copy of this, I'm happy to share it with them. And you can kind of build yours off of that. And you can go into PowerPoint or into Google Drive and Google Drive presentations and pick your own template or whatever and copy and paste as you please. But go ahead and put that presentation together because it will help you feel confident when you go in to do your listing presentations. Hopefully that answered that question. Oh, I'm seeing somebody made a comment about the wrapping station, and that is brilliant. I love that. Who pays for staging? I think we answered that one. Okay, Elizabeth said they'd be happy to email the presentation as well. So there you go. If you didn't see my email. Okay, for the staging agreement, it's not necessarily an agreement. I don't know how your forms are, but for us on our Georgia Association of Realtor forms, we have like a special stipulations section of our exclusive listing agreement. And in that stipulations section, I just write like a stipulation. I had my broker check it that says that in the instance that this home does not close or the listing is terminated, the listing terminated, the seller agrees to reimburse the cost of the staging. And then I list the cost of the staging and the company who did it. So maybe have your broker read over the stipulation, but that's kind of how I do that. Because if it closes, I'm willing to eat the cost because it's going to help me get the sale. But if it doesn't close, I can't be out $4,000. And I think that was it. Does anyone have any questions that they want to like verbalize? And I think this was over at 11, so I don't want to take too much time. Okay. Well, Stephanie, is there anything else that you guys need to go over?
No, I don't think so. That was a very, very, very good presentation. I learned a lot.
Hope so. I know I can just
Yeah. And I used to be a realtor in Orange County, California. And I think to myself, if I had been that thorough, I probably would have gotten more listings. So.
Well, it all takes time. It's all a building process, and be easy on yourselves too. Don't beat yourselves up. And again, if you just circle back to the relational piece, like if you go into a listing presentation and you don't feel like it was your very best, you didn't give your very best of yourself, just be you going forward with that client, and the relational part will do its job too.
Co-chairs, you guys have anything else? I see Renisha is on the Zoom now. She's our other co-chair. You want to say anything?
No, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us today, Kate. We appreciate it. All of the nuggets you have shared with us.
Absolutely. And I'm just thrilled to see so many people participating in YPN. I know for me personally, it's like one of my favorite groups, and my business has benefited from YPN. Like, I don't mean like, oh, I could tie a dollar amount to it, but just my knowledge and the network that it creates and the support that it has, and like things like this, like my YPN's been offering, we've been doing Wake Up with YPNs as well. Just all the information and support is such a huge part of your business. I always am so grateful to see people participating, because we don't get paid to get on this Zoom call, right? But ultimately it's helping us grow our business, which is where we do get paid. And so participating in these things, being involved in the industry outside of just selling and buying houses is a huge deal. And so I just want to applaud all of you all for being on here. And I would encourage you all to continue to stay involved, and even look into getting involved, on a state and a national level as well.